Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your weekly insight into life as a modern designer. This week I'm joined by lettering legend and fellow Brit Ian Barnard, our retro design expert Dustin Lee, and super talented South African illustrator Lisa Glanz. In this week's episode, we chat all about isolation as a designer. This is something a lot of freelancers experience, and all four of us have certainly felt the loneliness that can come with working from home. Today, we dig into the pros and cons of working alone versus working on a team, and try to give you some actionable tips to feel less isolated whilst continuing to do the work that you love. Let's get into the show. So let's start this episode by explaining that we're all sat isolated and separate from each other, and we're on a Google Hangout right now recording. So we're not in the same room, which gives an idea of where we fall on the isolation scale, I guess. And I really want to pick your guys' heads. Wait, do you pick a head? Brain. I really want to pick your guys' brains about this because I, as you know, used to work very isolated, used to be a freelancer and work from home. And I know that's pretty much how you guys work now, whereas I'm in the design cuts office and constantly have people around. And it's been really interesting for me to see the kinds of ups and downs of both. And I don't necessarily think one is better. Certainly different people kind of work differently. So some people like the isolation and thrive off it. Other people implode. Like, where do you guys sit on this?
Part of it, I think, comes down to your personality type, or whether you're an introvert or extrovert is sort of a big player. Because some people just like being, I suppose, on their own and having their own space. I'm some weird mix of introvertedness and extrovertedness. So I like having some time on my own, but then I get a bit fed up and I need the energy and be surrounded by other people to sort of
feed off.
Yeah, because the thing is, I spent 14 years being in an environment with other people, and I quite like that sort of open plan. I like the banter. You're more likely to have a break because of the people around you, going to
So just for context, what was that 14 years? Was that a design job?
So 7 years I was at a design agency. So there was about 5 or 6 of us in a room. And then I was part-time at a magazine where there was a few of us in a room. And then I used to do regular trips up to their London office. And that was all open plan as well. So,
and even like the trips and the commutes, like being around people there. This is going to make me sound totally mad, but I know when I worked alone, I would relish like being in a crowd. Even like you get that desperate. It's like I haven't seen another human being in a week. Like,
I do. I take trips to the supermarket regularly or the Target just to like be in a group.
I can imagine a queue of people at the checkout like forming behind you as you won't leave the cashier alone. It's like, please just keep chatting with me.
Keep bringing coupons out slowly.
Yeah.
Keep the conversation flowing.
And the thing is, it doesn't have to be actual conversation. It's just being in the presence of other people. Just like, for me, my morning routine is going off and getting a coffee, walking into town, just because. So lucky. I love seeing my family who I see every day, but I just need some, to be with other people. Otherwise, you get a bit of sort of, if you just stay in your office and stuff like that, you get a bit of sort of cabin fever.
Ian, do you live like in a suburb? I'm trying to picture this. Like, do you live in a suburb where you walk out and you just walk through a neighborhood and you hit a coffee shop?
Well, I live in a town, so it's like a population of about 24,000. So, and I live a couple of minutes away from. We have in the UK, you have like a high street in towns. You have a high street where all the shops are, and then everywhere else is sort of housing based around the sort of centre of the town. So,
that sounds so good.
So you just walk in.
Houses everywhere.
You just have blocks.
Just blocks and blocks of.
I kind of went Irish there. I don't know.
Is that an American thing? Blocks? Yeah, because we don't call it High Street. I think we call it Main Street, which is the same thing as High Street.
Yeah,
I
suppose that's what
are. And then there's houses on the sides of it typically, but in my case, it's just houses, and then eventually you hit forest.
So no little coffee shop, no little corner sort of gathering of restaurants.
Not where I live. You have to drive to it.
Really?
I keep hearing people talk about, like, I heard Chase Jarvis talking the other day about how much like he liked being able to walk, just do a walk to get coffee, and that always sounds so good to me. Because exactly what Ian said, just being able to see some people interact, get your blood flowing, even if it's just like trading, some money for coffee, sounds really nice.
Shame, Dustin. That does sound pretty desperate. Oh goodness!
Is that why you're so keen to do these calls, Dustin?
I love doing
to see some faces, even on the screen.
Speaking of that though, like, so I love talking to you guys. It's good to see all your faces. And then I have like someone that I work with, and we tend to work for about like anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes every weekday together through Skype. And I find like doing like a little time on Skype each day helps. I mean, I have my family around, but a lot of times it's just like my little girls, which the conversation is just different.
No kidding. Yeah.
You mean you're not talking about like Pantone color palettes with your young daughters?
We talk a lot about Frozen.
Got to get them involved on that.
We talk a lot about Frozen. Talk a lot about dancing.
That's cool.
So I think half the battle, like Ian said, is having the self-awareness, I guess, to think about what kind of person you are, what your needs are on this front, and then try and shape your situation around that, because it's going to be very different if you're living in a busy city and you're popping out every 5 minutes to go and be around a crowd of people. That's going to be completely different from living halfway up a mountain where you see someone every fortnight, and it's going to be different living alone as opposed to living with your family.
Yeah.
And then within each of those scenarios, you have to be self-aware enough to know how introverted or extroverted you are. Like Ian, you've kind of figured it out what the balance is for you. I mean, I presume you're doing your situation through choice. You're like, okay, this works well for me. I want to work at home, but I get the people time in as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why, like, I like, having my own space that I can make it messy and, where everything is. But, a couple of times a month I go out to London. So I enjoy getting that busyness of being surrounded by lots of people. And it's usually visiting, maybe a design agency or another group of people. And so I get that part of it, and then I come home again. So then I have my own space again.
That's awesome. I wish I had that.
But also what I do is I was trying to do once a month is have just a creative meetup at a coffee shop in the next town along, where it's just designers who are local to that area just coming along, and or creatives, anyone creative really, and we just meet and we just chat, and well, the last one I brought along my iPad Pro and Microsoft Surface. We were just like discussing the pros and cons, and just because someone there was actually thinking about, I really need to get a new laptop. I also want an iPad, so it was a good time for people to sort of discuss ideas, discuss equipment and stuff like that. So and it's something that you don't. I think it really helps having social media. Because there's a lot of people I chat to on social media, but it's just something different about being.
It's not the same.
No,
with
really
having
a
leaving a comment on someone's Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's weird because not even the face to face, like physically being in the proximity of someone has some weird effect to it too.
Yeah, definitely.
It does. Yeah, this is like a halfway house, like a Skype or something. It's very nice. I'm always like buzzing after talking to you guys, but it would be completely different if we met in person, which we still haven't done.
No.
And I think, Ian, you're dropping a few knowledge bombs there, hopefully, for the listeners, in that you're a prime case. I think a lot of the listeners are probably freelancers or working from home. And it just goes to show, especially in this day and age, there's so many different ways you can avoid isolation if you don't want to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
So, you can do Skype calls and group calls like this. You can organize meetups. You can go to other people's meetups. You can go to events in London. You can go to a coffee shop. Like there's tons of different ways just to get out there in the real world. And in fact, I'm going to throw this over to Lisa because I feel like we're neglecting your situation here. I would love to know how do you feel like isolation or lack therereof
I think
impacts
I'm
your
impressed
like
with Ian.
inspiration?
I must say that you go to all that trouble of sort of meeting up with designers. I have to be honest, I've never tried that, so I can't really say whether they exist or not around me. I'm sure they do. But
Start one.
yeah, maybe I should, yeah. But what I think is important besides interacting with peers in your own industry is also finding a hobby or something that interests you outside of your...
I thought you said hubby for a second, but you said hobby.
Yeah, if you're listening, find yourself a good husband.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
It sounded like she was saying, find yourself another husband.
Yeah. Another husband on the side. Yeah, no. Basically, because what I do is I do dancing as well. So and it's weird. I go through this little battle with myself. Sometimes when I'm really busy, I get irritated that I have to go to my lesson. But then once I've done my lesson, I'm really so happy that I did it because it kind of took me away from the whole sort of, sitting here and being so focused on your work. And because, I can go for, and I'm not kidding, like if I didn't have a dance lesson, I can go for like a week and not see anybody else other than Cliff, my partner. So, and that's
I was going to say, I think you get the most immersed out of all of us, I would wager, because you've talked about this. You get literally in your own world.
Totally.
Where you're like imagining and seeing like these creatures
Absolutely.
and dreaming them up. And you're very much like in a bubble, which I think that leads to your incredible work. But it probably leads to more isolation.
I reckon, to be honest with you, I reckon it's also a little dangerous from a mental point of view because I find myself... obviously I talk to my pets. Obviously.
That's a given.
Sure.
That's a given.
It's when you start talking to your bedside lamp.
Okay, I'm not that bad yet. But, honestly, I because I don't have anybody really to talk to during the day, and as I said, for days, the only person is Cliff. So... like when I go and make coffee, I'll sing and, I'll kind of do a little jig around the house. If somebody had a camera, they would be, I don't know, they'd think I was a weirdo. So for me...
Thank goodness for Cliff.
Exactly. So for me, the dance lessons are, because the reason why I think it's good for me, the fact that they're lessons, they're kind of pre-booked, so I have to go, and I've paid for them. Because I think if they weren't, then I'd find an excuse not to go. So if somebody out there is similar to me in personality, you got to like put yourself, you have to make a schedule for whatever it is that you're doing to get yourself out of the office. Yep. If it's just like, oh, I'll just go for a walk, you never will. So rather sign up for a class, whether it's painting or pottery or dancing or writing or whatever. It kind of forces you to get out of the office, go do that activity. Afterwards, you'll love yourself for doing it, and then come back, you're refreshed, and you're ready for the next sort of session of 5 days of isolation. But
I've been thinking about doing that. Like there's a karate or some form of that by my house. I've been thinking about doing like just to do it. Like,
that's awesome.
To become like a black belt. Or also, like, we have a community college, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll take the calligraphy class because, like, then I can be around other people practicing.
You should. And I didn't even expect to land on this in this episode, but I guess there is like personal isolation, and then there's isolation in terms of your interests, and it just makes you a more interesting person. And I can't help but think if you're a more well-rounded, diverse personality, that's only going to benefit your creative work.
Exactly.
Like I feel like you can get too narrow. Like we're all really passionate, and like we get on these calls and we can geek out about design. But I knew people growing up where they were incredible guitarists, but if you tried to talk about anything else, it was like back to guitar.
Oh yeah,
and
I play guitar too.
It's not healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I've experienced that. Well, the one like benefit thing of that is so like me and Ian have met a couple times at Creative South, which is a conference here in the US, and through that I realized a lot of that came together because of AIGA, which is our like the American version of like a graphic designers
Guild or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And so I finally signed up for the one around here because I realized people were so tightly connected there. And I don't know about like you guys that have gone to those, but like what I found was like you network and like you can find some business partnerships or collaborations, but also like it's kind of like these calls a lot where like you're just getting to almost like it's therapy a little bit, like someone else telling you, oh, that happens to me too, and you're like, oh good, I'm not crazy, or I'm not like a horrible person because it took me 2 days to respond to this email, like there's all sorts of things that come up that like it's really nice to know other people have that issue.
Yeah, I think conferences and more formal meetups are definitely a good approach, and I'm actually going to one myself on Tuesday.
That's cool.
But it's like a entrepreneurial type one.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting fed up of having no friends close to me who do this kind of stuff. It's why it's refreshing talking to you guys.
Yeah.
But in like my local friends, it's like no one's into that stuff, and I'm such a geek about it. I need people to talk to, and so I think a lot of it's getting over this stigma of like either networking being this like vile concept, or you're putting yourself out there, and I don't want to be the guy who pitches up and is like, friends like that. You know what I mean? But so I'm going in like open-minded to be like, okay, these are going to be like-minded people. Hopefully I click with some of them. I'm not trying to get anything out of them.
I totally had a vision of you there, Tom.
What, just pitching up? Anyone want to be my friend? I might write that on like a name tag or something.
T-shirt.
I think if you did that, like I would totally be like, yes, like finally.
The four of us would be in the corner together, the four nerds.
See, when we do eventually go to a conference together, which is going to happen, we are definitely going to be the weirdos in the corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Lisa, I don't know if you've done conferences. I know Ian and Dustin, like you say, you met up at one.
We
like
met twice at one, yeah.
What was that like for in terms of getting away from isolation? That added like a whole new layer to what you're doing, right? And to your working relationship and friendship.
For sure. I mean, I always thought conferences were really like just this big trick in the world to make money for the people that run conferences, because they cost a lot. So I was like, this is crazy. Like, who would spend like $800 plus a plane ticket, or whatever to go to a conference? And then I went to one, and only because I'd been invited to do something, they paid for my ticket, and I was like, all right, I'll go. And then I went and I was like, I've been missing out. Like, these things are amazing. So like, me and Ian, what did we eat? Like, we were like, let's go eat Southern food together for the first, because neither of us had Southern food, and we ate like, what did we eat, Ian?
There was there's a lot of cheese involved. Grit, the site called grits. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, it's like corn, right?
We both had grits for the first time with, I think, like cheese on it or something, but
it was just like, it was either vegetables coated in butter or loads of cheese on bacon or something.
Everything
it was
is
a healthy
fried,
trip.
covered in cheese, and like it's crazy. But well, the thing about that too is, so I was talking to my friend Nicole the other day, and she was talking about how when you freelance or you work in this kind of industry where a lot of your people around you don't, no one knows what you're talking about. So like when like I explained, oh, well, I sell like this stuff on the internet for Photoshop, or for any of you guys, what you do, like I'd imagine you probably get a lot of people that just kind of like their eyes glaze over and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. How does someone make money doing that? So
I've learned to pinpoint the look where they tell me they understand it, and I can tell they absolutely do not.
Exactly. So like just knowing some people where you can say, like, talk about what you're doing, they're like, is so helpful.
It's a relief. Yeah.
I can tell my family members about it, and they'll be like, that's great, Dustin. And then they kind of pat me on their head. They're like, that's so good, buddy.
I have to just, with mine, because I do a lot of type design at the moment, I just go, it's a bit like Comic Sans in Word. Where you can change it to Comic Sans.
That's bad. We have to totally bring ourselves down to Comic Sans. Oh, gosh.
I have to think about it as in the only time that people would use a different font is when they're changing Times New Roman to Comic Sans.
Oh, totally. I went out to coffee with a couple family members the other day, and I was like, oh, like, I think that's my font. And there's my font, this little board in Portland. And
That's really cool.
yeah, it's really neat when that happens. It doesn't happen to me a ton because I'm not as big a font, genius like Ian. That the delivery of that was really weird. But my point being like that, like I was talking to some of my family members, and they were like, I don't get it. Like, why would people buy a font? Like, why would someone in their right mind spend
when there's so many
$29 on a font? Yeah. They're like, it comes to Georgia and Tahoma and like all these others. Like, why would you do that?
You should tell them, be like, people spend like $2,000 on a font.
Yeah.
I know, I did.
Like,
and I kind of said, it's kind of like when you're in graphic design, it's kind of like the best thing I could compare it to is like collecting like, I don't know, like Beanie Babies or like something like that. It's like you start to just like really love them and you want to, or like, what's that thing? Gotta catch them all. Pokemon? I was like, it's like you want to catch them all. Like you want to get all the different little fonts, right?
So nothing to do with the inherent
funny.
quality of the font or the impact it will have on your client work. It's more of a Beanie Baby collectible.
In all honesty, sometimes it is. I'm just like, see it and I'm like, I just,
Gotta
that's
have
how
it.
this will ever be
I-
used.
I know.
I would argue, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's true.
It's true. Let's face facts. Yeah.
Okay, so something we kind of touch on a lot, which I guess goes beyond design, is that whole thing of like doing what you love and being yourself. And I think for designers who are thinking about isolation and where to work, I think literally just do you. Like, it's the spectrum of humanity. I know a lot of designers have common traits, but there's very, very different personalities within that. And some would hate the idea of working for like a decade at home, and others would hate the idea of being, in an office they had to commute to,
Yeah.
surrounded by people who aren't really friends, like every single day. It's like it's such a breadth of options available.
Yeah.
And the kind of halfway house of Ian, where he's like trying to pretend like he's not all alone, so he's getting himself out there on a daily basis.
Finding some friends.
Finding some friends. I'm right there with you, buddy. I guess like just do whatever makes you feel comfortable. But I think the message in this episode should be like there are options, and it doesn't have to be as black and white. Like I used to think it was so black and white. It was like I'm either going to be holed up in my bedroom or I'm going to be in like a corporate 9 to 5, and that's so untrue.
A perfect example is there's a guy named Johnny Gwynn out in Alabama, and he has something I believe it's called Stomp Yard, and it's just like a place where people can have like little offices and designers can go, and you can just go there and have a space and works, and there's other designers there. So like my friend Scott Fuller will go there, and then like a couple days a week he just goes and you can play ping pong with other people and show them your designs and hang out. And then the other days you can stay home with your family and work from home. So you can also get that balance by doing a co-working space type thing too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That was a very good idea. I think because like you might be someone who's in an office job thinking about going freelance and thinking, oh, is that going to be quite isolating? I quite enjoy this environment I'm already in. But I remember I was in that situation that I remember going around my best friend's house, and his dad was a graphic designer, and he had his own like office in the garden, this cool wooden office, and it had a photography bit in it, and he had his desk with one computer on it, desk another computer on it. And what really inspired me was that he had that space, and he was like, go back out and you go back into your house quite quickly. And the fact that he could just then also go off and play golf whenever he liked. I was like, that is so
like,
good.
I idolize him. He's there in his like bathrobe or something.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, sometimes he would, just be in the pajamas. But I was just like, actually, I was only starting my career at that time, and I was like, I know I can't do that at the moment. It's different nowadays when you can come out of university and have a freelance job, but I was just starting on the rung of the sort of design ladder, and I was just like, actually, one day I'd love to be able to be freelance like he's doing and have that freedom that you have. And I don't think I ever saw any like, oh, it must be very lonely or very isolating. I just saw the freedom that you would have more than anything else.
Yeah.
And now being a freelancer, I still feel that way. You know, I, I only live a couple of minutes away from like the local pub, which has like quite cheap breakfasts, and so I'm
It's
always
dangerous.
I'm always in there with like it's not necessarily designers, but just other people just communicate. It doesn't have to be talking about design all the time. So I'm part of a big church, and so I meet up with a lot of people that like I'm really good friends with a guy who does dental makes dental molds for teeth. You know, to sort of that dentists use to create the sort of maybe false teeth and stuff like that. And so, you know, I know nothing about that, but we just chat about you know everything under the sun. So it's just nice to get out
Be
and
around
just
different
chat to
people.
someone. It doesn't have to be
no, of
about
course
anything.
it is.
So.
And I think the freedom point there is important because we're talking a lot about like the potential negative aspects of feeling isolated if you're a freelancer. But I think there's huge benefits to being a freelancer, working from home, and there's huge benefits to working in an office. And I think the freedom is probably the biggest thing as a freelancer. That's something I loved at the time. But I've actually been amazed how much I love and probably prefer being in an office environment now.
Oh, do you prefer that?
And
That's so
yeah,
interesting.
Or give us some of your perks.
Yeah, like what's the difference? Like, why would that be better now than for freelance?
okay. So one of the main things is less isolation. That's kind of the obvious thing, but I think I started feeling like a houseplant at
Oh,
the
so
end
you
of my
did. So you
freelancing
were
bit.
affected by that. I mean, it was.
I was because I'd done it like for so many years. Like I've been designing and doing little like jobs for people since I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I find not only is it better in terms of it's less isolated, but I feel like you start to reach better patterns as well in your day. So when I freelanced, I would regularly like stay up on a project until 6 in the morning and stuff.
Yeah,
And it's
which is
like even
crazy.
even though when we've had the office, there will be some long days. Like it's somehow you can leave it there a little bit easier. And now I'm really starting to find that distinction between the office and the home. And I find I actually now I can't get anything done at home. I find I focus so much better in the office because
awesome.
I guess now like I associate the office as the workplace, the home as the personal space. And I try like if I'm feeling sick or something or have a day at home, I seriously get like a fraction of the stuff done. And I think the fact you're surrounded by people, um, you know, we're a creative company, and same for any design agencies. And we actually have our creative director, Matt. He runs his design agency literally next to us on the same bit of office. And so we've got like Design Cuts as a creative company and a awesome design agency working side by side.
Oh, that's cool.
So for the whole day, you're surrounded by like hardworking, awesome, creative people.
Yeah.
And if you ever need feedback or input on anything, you get a bunch of people like gathered around your screen, and they'll all be giving like really excellent, really diverse feedback that if you were on your own at home, you might have to like post on a forum, and then the feedback would not be that great, and you
Yeah.
might have to wait a day for it to come in. Like having that instant kind of support network and expertise and talent around you. You know,
does
everyone
sound
says
really
it's like
cool.
better to like surround yourself with people who are better than you are. And I used to be very, very into web design when I was doing it full time, but Matt, our creative director, is a much better web designer than I am. And to have someone that much better than you next to you every day is pretty inspiring. So it's kind of like
course.
I found it's good for the isolation, it's good for the kind of sanity, it's good in terms of feeding off people and feeling inspired, keeping a better routine and not falling into kind of bad unhealthy habits. Like there's a lot of upsides, and that's coming from the person who like loves their own freedom and managing their time. You know, I was the biggest advocate of doing your own thing before this.
It's kind of that whole thing about like you're the sum or you're the average of the 5 people you're around the most. So you're around a lot of creative people. So it kind of helps to lift you up because you're being inspired by
Yeah.
a good mix
Yeah,
of
and
people.
I mean that can go both ways. Like I won't name any names, but we've got some people we work with remotely and so on where they've been miserable at work, and that'll be for a creative company, but it will just be bad atmosphere and office politics, and that's obviously significantly worse than being isolated at home.
Yeah.
But you know, we've got stuff in the office here where we're like PVO, positive vibes only. And it sounds a bit cheesy, but like it goes a long way. It's like infectious.
Yeah, no,
And so
for sure.
when everyone's there having a bit of a laugh, and like it's the kind of vibe we have on these calls, but every day
Yeah.
around you, and that's like it's good for your mind. Seriously.
It is. You're so right. I used to I've done some jobs where I worked with like small teams. I think the most was ever like 4 other people in a room. But I remember I had one person I worked for, and he was like super positive, and he'd be like, "Okay, we got to clear out the bad energy. Like if we had a bad call with someone or something," and he'd get out like, you know, burn some like incense or something. He'd be like, "All right, we're clearing out the negative energy. We're making it positive in here again." And it really did work. It really felt more positive by the time he did that. So I was going to say to counter the whole thing of working with people, because I think that sounds amazing. Actually, as you were saying that, I was like, that sounds so amazing. One thing I do like though about working from home by myself for the most part is that I'm the type of person where I can get things done a lot quicker. Like I'm more productive because I don't have to ask anyone else to make a decision. And after you've done that for long enough, you start to be able to make decisions very quickly on your own. You know, you don't feel like you need to get a bunch of permission from people. So I do like that. I feel like there's some things I can knock out in like 45 minutes that maybe like in an office might have taken me many hours. So I do enjoy that part about it.
Yeah, it's less wasted time, like whether that's red tape or pointless meetings
or distractions
or just being pulled from pillar to post.
Yeah,
which is something I do experience all the time here.
Or I don't know if you experience this, Tom, but I'd be curious to know if you see this in your office. So like I very much like this sounds funny. I very much pay attention to like my biological rhythms.
Okay, we don't need detail there.
I thought I'd keep a straight face. Yeah, please go on.
Well, what I mean is like, so like I wake up in the morning, right? I get my cup of coffee, like I'm feeling like, you know, awake, alert. I do some creative work, and then like I kind of start tapering off, and then like I'll do more like emails, or I'll do more writing things, or just less brain-filled stuff. And then I have lunch, and then I feel tired. So I take a nap every day for like 60 minutes in the afternoon, because I always hated working at jobs. You are living the
dream. You're living the dream. That's outrageous.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because like I get that thing around like, you know, 1, 2 o'clock where I get just really tired. And I always resented the fact that I was made to work when I felt like my whole body was telling me to go to sleep. So now I go to sleep for an hour, I wake up and I drink a cup of coffee, and it's like a fresh day again, and I'm fresh again. So I'm curious, like, do you notice that in the office, that there's like a after lunch
slump,
like lag type thing that happens?
Yeah, I do, but I feel like you're kind of moving against society. like you're a maverick. It's like everyone gets that. Everyone feels sleepy after lunch, but unless you're living in Spain, you're probably not gonna go and have a nap unless you are an absolute wild card. And I salute you for that. That's outstanding work.
I literally felt resentment about it. I was like, you know what? I work for myself. I'm taking this nap. I am not going to stay awake and work when I'm exhausted.
Do you actually go to sleep?
I go up to my bed, I watch a couple YouTube videos, and then I fall asleep for an hour, and I come back and pretend like it's morning again.
That's amazing.
And it's amazing that you can actually sleep. I mean, that is...
Yeah, you've got the biological rhythm of a 6-year-old.
I'm trained on it. And it adds up to about like 7.5. I sleep like 6.5 hours at night, and then,
no wonder you're tired. That's
Yeah.
amazing, though.
Why don't you just have that? Why don't you just have an extra hour in bed at night?
Because I still get tired. I still get that like that lag. Plus, like I'm just trained to do it because I've done it for years now.
I like it. It's a great idiosyncrasy for the listeners. Okay, so Lisa, how about from your side? What do you kind of err towards? And are you? In fact, I'd like to know: are you like totally happy with your setup right now, or do you think, you know what, I'd like to get out and be around people more, or do you feel like you found that balance?
I definitely need more balance, because my problem is I don't know when to stop. So I actually find myself working 7 days a week, and that's obviously not healthy at all. So it is difficult, because I love what I do so much, and every time I'm kind of pulled away, whether it's from a chore point of view or life point of view or social engagement point of view, often I think to myself, well, I'd rather be working. When I say working, I mean drawing or doing something nice. I don't mean the horrible side of working. But yeah, so from that point of view, I definitely think I need work on. But I can't imagine working for somebody else now. I can't imagine going into an office and sharing my day with a whole lot of other people. It would be weird for me. I know I'd adjust.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would definitely be weird. I think over the years I've realized, like you said, you got to like know yourself and know what works for you. I definitely, I think I'm a bit like Ian, where I need a bit of both. I need isolation to really get some good graft done, and then I need a recharge of like social interaction, people, that kind of thing. But I definitely do my best work on my own without any distractions, without any opinions even, actually, which is a bit bad. I don't know.
Tell me, do you focus well? I mean, you're pretty prolific with what you do, so I guess you do. But do you find you're able to be at home and just like tear through work and get loads done? Because if I go and work from home now, I can't do that.
No, I'm actually a bit of a machine when it comes to that, especially. That sounded bad.
The best answer.
Really?
We're turning that into like a quote card for Facebook or something.
I'm a bit of a machine.
Because, okay, I have to be honest.
Thank you, Arnold.
when I was graphic designing, I definitely got a lot more done. I mean, honestly, I was like I must have been a non-stop graphic design machine. Honestly, I don't know how much. I don't know how I got all that stuff done as a single person. But now that I'm illustrating, and there's so many different aspects in this job, like there's marketing, and there's your website, then there's social media, and then there's it's all
Customer service.
Yeah, customer service, and then
clients.
Yeah, and then you only end up drawing like 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So I wish I could get more drawing done. I must be honest. But yeah, I mean, Cliff always accuses me I work too much and too long, and I'm a workaholic, and yeah, I suppose I am. I don't know.
Sounds like he doesn't really accuse you as much as just state the fact.
Yeah, I think he's over the years he's so used to it, so it's just.
What does he do?
Well, he works for like a normal corporate kind of environment, so he doesn't freelance. He
lives with the machine.
He lives with a machine, and he puts up with a machine.
Does he ever have to go up there and just be like, Lisa, come down and watch some Netflix?
Almost every day. I mean, if he wants to speak to me, he's got to come up to the loft,
It sends a support request at a shop.
Yeah. Basically.
I don't know why I'm picturing like little
Nice.
birds, like animated birds superimposed on you up there as you work, and like
but it's difficult because I mean my personality type is like that. I guess I get so involved and dedicated because I'm one of those, like, to my detriment, I think I'm very determined and dedicated, and I think that it's a good thing to a point, but it can also be bad. Yeah.
I know it can, but I kind of want to be like, why? Because I guess a lot of people listening, they're like, okay, so you get loads done because you love it and you're really happy in your work, and when you're out doing other stuff, you'd rather be doing that, and it's kind of hard to see the downside in all of that.
Yeah, I think I guess,
but there is. I think there is. Like,
you need balance. You need balance. It can't consume you to a point where that's all you do and that's all you think about. I mean, that can't be.
Well, I think about this a lot. I'm curious, like how you feel about this. I oftentimes ask myself, a year from now or 10 years from now, when I look back at this time and realize the time I invested in, for instance, Retro Supply or whatever thing I'm doing, will I feel like that was a good use of my limited time that I have as on Earth, right? So I'm curious, like, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like in a year or in 10 years looking back that you'll be like, this was me living my passion and I spent the time the best I could, or does part of you say something else?
Well, it's funny you say that because I started my illustration career so late in my job life, I guess, if you want to call it that. I wish I had started it in my 20s, and now it feels like I have so much time I need to catch up with. So
Mhm.
I guess that's what drives me so much, because I want to learn, I want to get better at my skill, I want to get better at drawing and all that kind of thing. So I feel like I'm kind of making up for lost time, and I think that's probably maybe not all that healthy, because you're in the place you're meant to be at the time, unless you're really lazy and you just never take opportunity. um, but we always want to like be in a different place often, instead of just enjoying where you are at the moment. And I guess that's where my imbalance is, that I don't just sort of let this journey evolve naturally, and I want to get it faster, and that's
But
probably not that good.
but do
I
you
don't
look
know.
back at the time that you spent so far and say like, I'm glad I spent that much time doing it, or do you
Oh,
like,
well, yeah, I mean, at the moment, I can't. I'm so grateful that I'm spending all this time on it at the moment. But if this is going to be like a 5-year thing, then I don't know. I guess I'm going to be like, wow, you spent 5 years just doing that. I don't know. It's a good question.
No, I think it's awesome. Like, so many people are having to settle with what they're doing,
Yeah.
whether that's doing something that makes them miserable or doing something that makes them kind like halfway happy. And so, I don't know. I like getting on these calls and talking to people who are truly passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's like boundaries and limitations within that. And yeah, we're all kind of figuring it out. And yeah, we have the same doubts and like foibles as everyone else listening. But yeah, like I see it as a great thing.
Yeah, well, this is going back to what we were saying, how it's so nice to speak to people in the same field and people who understand, because I guess speaking to my friends, they might think that I'm too obsessed or I'm too one-minded, but you guys kind of understand that, so
Mhm.
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, that hurts a bit. I thought you considered us friends.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about us when you
don't-
said friends, then I realized that was somebody else.
Yeah, I saw your face light up there, and
You're like, I talk to my friends, it doesn't really work, but then I talk to you guys and I do feel better.
Sorry, that's not what I meant.
so what you're saying is we're there as like the agony aunt figures, and then
No.
once we get you leveled back out, you can go enjoy time with your real friends.
You like
And
the
hey,
I
weird
see how it
same
is.
friends as me.
just to be clear, in case it wasn't, I wanted to just be clear. I don't think that it's bad to do that, or I wasn't saying, you should question that. That's too much. I was just curious, genuinely curious how people perceive the use of their time, because I know I ask myself a lot, like, is this how I should spend my time?
Mm.
Um,
Like
and
I think time's the asset, and it's definitely very finite. And so I just think if you're not happy, then change it.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
Oh,
if,
yeah.
if you are miserable in either the work you're doing
Mm.
or your level of isolation, or the fact you're sat on a table with 10 people that you can't stand, then just yeah, I think you should do something about it, because we talked about this the other day, me and some of the team, just the weird notion that the people you work with you spend more time with than your friends and loved ones.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, that's
And
given.
like you can't settle, like even if you want to work on a
Totally.
team but you feel like it's not the right fit for you, like go find another team. Like
yeah.
that's all there is really.
Mm.
I'm curious, Tom, or I guess all you guys. So what about like? I'm guessing all you guys get into your things, right? Like, I don't know what they are for you, but we all have our things we have to do a lot of in our job.
Mhm.
Day in and day out. There's like those core things you're constantly doing, and I know for myself, like sometimes I'm just like I just need to like have it broken up. So I'm curious, do you guys have experience that, and if you do, how do you break it up?
What do you mean, the
Like,
monotony or just the?
Yeah. Well, I mean, quite literally though, not like a 15-minute quick break from something. I mean, like, let's say you letter every day, I'd imagine. So like, what if you're just like, oh, I'm a little burnt out on lettering. Do you stop for a week? Or like, Tom, do you like, if you're working on a project and you're just feeling burnt on it, do you just say, let's hold off on this for a couple days and do something else?
Yeah, because the thing is, doing something you love, for a living can make that thing that the problem was Click-Free for me was just going to be a hobby at first, and then it suddenly became, I was really interested in and loved it, and it suddenly became my job, and it's been really great. And there are some points where I'm like, sometimes I just like, it hurts my brain to do it, and I just need to go and do something like, and that's why I make sure, I would do stuff at weekends now, like, just doodling and stuff. And now I just like, actually, I don't. I just try and get space, whether it's, a lot of the time I've got my kids are, we're doing stuff as a family and, doing stuff with the kids. So I have to be away from it. But I think it's really good because then your passion for it next week is greater than what it would be like if you hadn't given yourself like a couple of days break over the weekend or something. And especially for me, because I've spent the past 3 years posting nearly every day, like Monday to Friday. So I've done like, I think I'm sort of just over 1,200 posts. And it's like sometimes trying to come up with something to post, to do with lettering is quite hard. I like being in that sort of creative environment of constantly creating every day, but sometimes I'm just like, I just don't have a clue, and I just can't think of ideas, and I might write something on a bit of paper and it looks terrible, and or I like look at the moment I'm working on a font I hope will release next few days, and like the other day I was just looking in it and I was just like, this is really rubbish. No one's going to buy this. And then I left it. I thought, that's it. I have to work on something else. And then I came back the next day and I go, actually, no, it looks all right. So,
yeah. It's funny that
it's just I think you need that space to, and like you say, more than just a coffee break. I think sometimes it just needs to be either a space to let your brain recharge and clear out all the. It's just like restarting a computer. It's just sometimes you need to get away from it. So I'm impressed that Lisa can constantly do it 7 days a week. I think I end up hating what I did if I sometimes you can overdo a good thing. So
for sure, yeah. I think maybe in a year or so I might get to a point where it's burnout, like as you say.
If I see one more adorable bunny at the end of my pencil.
It's when those illustrations start changing and they're like, this is not as
Bunnies
cute and cuddly as it used to be.
It's going to go really dark with it.
Yeah, but maybe that's the difference. Like, I don't know, maybe with illustration, because the topics are just so vast. I don't know, maybe that helps.
Yeah, no, I get that. And same with, I'm running a company. Like, it's like a living, breathing organism. There's always a billion different things going on, and despite that I don't get bored because I'm very bad. Even if there's a month and nothing moves forward or develops, I'll get really, really antsy. And so whether it's like launching our marketplace or doing this show or whatever it might be, or like a new feature or something, there's always like something to move it forward and like get excited about, and something that's new.
Yeah,
I guess that's part of it too, huh? Like having constantly moving markers of things you're looking forward to. Because I find when I have a couple of those and they're upcoming, like right now, a new product's coming out, then a conference is coming, and so it's just different things to keep you looking forward.
And I guess to kind of circle back to today's topic, like that stuff is universal. So yes, like it's a debate worth having and something you should think about and making yourself happiest in terms of your work setting, but it's not the be all and end all. Like a lot of the stuff we talk about, like the passion and the process and those moving markers and, focusing on fun new stuff, like who cares? Like if you're in an office or at home, that's the key stuff to worry about, and then, figure out your work environment later kind of thing. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it sheds some light on some ways to feel less isolated as a designer. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or search for The Honest Designers Show over on iTunes. If you're feeling kind, it would mean the world to us if you were able to leave us a quick rating and review on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for your fellow designers to discover the show. We also hope that you'll post your own designer experiences on social media using #HonestDesigners, and Ian, Dustin, Lisa and myself would love to jump into that conversation and help you with your creative journey. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.